Hello, Marion here. How you going? Love to read you another story from my book, Caught Between Two Worlds by Marion Weatherburn. Available at all good bookstores to order. It's also available on Kindle through Amazon and through my website as an ebook. The story that I'm about to tell you is very close to my heart. It actually potentially makes me one of the only psychic mediums in Australia that's ever been to the grave of somebody that came through to me in a psychic reading a couple of years ago. It's a very, very special story, and I'll read it to you. The pictures that support this story will be on the on my website and on the internet, so that you can, and also on Facebook, so that you can actually see the images that support the story. This the going to the grave, it correlates with through the War Museum of Australia, who put me in touch with the museum in Geraldton in Western Australia. So there's some significant parties involved in this story, and I'd like to thank all of them, as well as acknowledge Mrs. June Rose, as this story is dedicated to her dad and her dad's best friend, Charlie Patching. Okay, so the story is entitled June, Geraldton in Wartime. So bear with me while I read it to you. It's dedicated to June, Chaz and Sam. Sam was June's dad. Okay. On 11th of November 2015, which made it the 11th of the 11th, I was invited to do a psychic reading for a lovely woman named June Rose, who lives in Encounter Bay, South Australia. I had never met June before, and only spoke with her briefly the week before to make her appointment and to take her address. On arrival at June's home, I was warmly welcomed and invited to take a seat on the lounge. June went into the kitchen to make morning tea. As I sat on the lounge, a small gentleman in a tight, stripped blue uniform with a hat sat next to me. The uniform looked to be of military style. "Hello," I said to the gentleman. "Hello," he replied. I said to him, "Do you know June?" And to which he replied, "Yes, I do." "May I have your name and your connection to June, please?" I asked him. "My name is Charles Patching, but June knows me as Chaz. That was how her father knew me. I was her father's best friend. June feels like a daughter to me. I never had a daughter." The feeling of love that came through Chaz's visit was like no other love I had ever felt before. It filled me from head to toe, and I was covered in goosebumps. I was surprised at how quickly Chaz had appeared. I turned to check if June would be much longer making coffee, as naturally I was eager to tell her about her guest. But when I turned back, Chaz was gone. It was at this point that June walked in and saw a look of bewilderment on my face. She asked if I was okay, to which I replied, "Yes, but I think you've just had your first guest for today." June sat quietly and listened as I explained Chaz's visit. Her eyes filled with tears. She told me the story about the relationship Charlie, Chaz Patching, and her father, Clarence Sam Rose, had. Charles Patching was her dad's best friend, she confirmed. They were in the Air Force together, based at Pearce Air Base in WA. At one point during World War II, Clarence had just flown 5 Marine Coast Watch missions in a row. When he landed at Geraldton Air Base, his lieutenant told him he had to go up again. His best friend Chaz said to him, "Let me do this one, mate." The two of them agreed to flip a coin, and Chaz won the toss. The flight left Geraldton Airport at 5:57 a.m. on the 15th of March 1943. Unfortunately, the plane struck heavy fog and turned around to return to the airport. The pilot, Donald Ashby Waite, had misread the valleys on their map, and soon after the plane smashed into a hilltop ridge at Yetna in Geraldton, Western Australia. All 8 men perished that morning. Sam joined the team assigned to pick up the remains of his best mate and crew. June said to me, "Marion, do you know what day it is?" "Thursday," I said. Smiling, she said, "No, it's the 11th of the 11th. It's Remembrance Day. Look at the time. It's 11 o'clock. Wow, this is the time we remember our lost soldiers. I would not be here today if it had not been for Chaz flying on behalf of my dad that day. My father telegrammed me in November every year to ask me to remember and honour his best friend on that day. Today is also my dad's birthday. This felt very special and somewhat surreal. How wonderful that Chaz came through as proof of life after death for June that morning. It gave her the kind of comfort and closure that she'd never been able to experience before. We spent some time in tears. June said, "Marion, there's one regret I have in life, and that is I will never get to lay flowers on Chaz's grave. It makes me so sad." "June," I said, "I will find out where they are and do this for you on your behalf. It will be my honour." Together with June's help, we contacted the War Museum in Canberra, who gave us all the details of that fateful flight and the crew on board. They put me in touch with the Geraldton Museum and a Mr. Robert Bandy. It was Robert's job to lay memorial plaques at all of the crash sites around Geraldton. Many years ago, there was a flying training school in Geraldton and consequently many crashes. Not too many deaths, but there were crashes. When I rang Mr. Bandy to ask him if he had any details or knowledges about the crash on 15th of March 1943 at Yetna, as I was doing research, he told me he knew it well, as it had been written in a local history book about the area. I told Robert I was coming to Geraldton and would like to meet with him. He agreed to meet with me and would even take me to the crash site. It's nice to think about simply going where life leads you. In my line of work, I really have no choice. That's the only way I know how to live. It's not always comfortable, but it's always exceptionally rewarding. This was one of those times. I had gone from June's reading, speaking to Chaz, to visiting his crash site and grave. My life is weird, but most certainly wonderful. I knew this was a completely new chapter in my life as a psychic medium. This was no longer my imagination, this was real. I visited Geraldton together with my best friend in February 2016. We met with Mr. Robert Bandy. He was a historian at the local Geraldton Museum. Robert had been instrumental in locating and mapping the majority of the plane crashes that occurred in and around Geraldton and Northampton for the Historical Society. He had actually pegged the site of the A9173 crash some years earlier in the hope that someday a plaque could be erected in memory of those that lost their lives. To date, that plaque does not exist. Robert showed us a book entitled The RAAF Historical Record of No. 4 Service Flying Training School. On page 257 of that book, Robert showed us 2 photographs of the crashed Beaufort bomber on the top of the ridge at Yetna. He gave me a copy of that book. There is a short description alongside the photographs and a record log of the flight on the next page. To see the photographs was quite chilling. This reading was becoming more real than ever before. Robert kindly took us the 20-minute drive to a remote, harshly landscaped hilltop just east of Yetna. We climbed the hillside to arrive at the staked site, surrounded by shards of metal and burnt perspex and shrapnel. Robert picked up some pieces of shrapnel and handed them to me, saying that I could keep them and to give some to June back in Victor Harbour, South Australia. Robert, Jennifer and I walked off in various directions that morning, absorbed in our own thoughts and prayers. I took myself off to an area where I could absorb the energy of those whose lives perished on that hilltop. It's in trying to describe moments like this that my words fail me the worst. I couldn't begin to describe my feelings on that hilltop in Yetna. I quietly prayed for those lost souls and their families that never got to grow old with them. I honoured their souls and sacrifices on that remote cliff that day on behalf of their families. Back in South Australia, I bought a heart-shaped box and I took the pieces of shrapnel around to June on the first day of my return. She was overwhelmed. She had followed our journey on the day through photographs and videos. This whole experience was quite a journey for me. I know that my friend also felt the gravity of what we were doing there that day. There are simply no words to describe the emotion and the honour we felt. I can't say with any scientific exactness that June's reading proved to the existence of an afterlife. I guess it all comes down to whether you believe that I actually saw Chaz or not. June's testimony should be enough to show you that I knew nothing about her before arriving at her house that day. And let's face it, People who have actually gone mad don't usually provide such specific and relevant information. Now, June's testimonial. Dear Marion, how truly beautiful and so clever you are. The dedication, the accuracy of names, and how amazing to know Charles Patching really was able to heal by connecting. I thank my late father for all the information given to me throughout the years. Of course, as children, we cannot possibly fathom the extent of pain and suffering our parents go through. I'm so proud of you, Marion, to know you. Your highest self must truly amaze so many. I sincerely wish you so much love, happiness, true success with all your endeavours throughout life. How loyal, true and honest you were with all your spoken words. No one else knew anything about this. It was all information entrusted only to me by way of my father. Kindest and richest blessings, Marion. Love you, June Rose. So as a normal human being, to actually go to the gravesite of Chaz Patching was extraordinary. To stand there, as a psychic medium, I discovered my gift as a child and I've had to work through it as an adult. But when I stood at the grave of Chaz Patching's gravesite at the War Museum in Geraldton, Western Australia, I had to accept that I really did have a gift and I was different to other people, and it really was true. It is, I just feel so humble that they chose me, or Chaz chose me, to give June that message on that day, which was also her dad's birthday. June also said to me after the reading that she said, Marion, if it hadn't have been for Chaz taking the plane that day, I would never have been born, because my dad would have been killed that day. There's such an amazing string of events around that. People often ask me still, Marion, what was it like to be at the plane crash, at the site, to actually walk around where that plane crashed? And I didn't feel anything. I'm honest. If anything, I felt like I was trespassing. I didn't feel like, it was a hot, dry, 45-degree, windy, dusty day. And if you know how windy Geraldton gets, it's really not nice. So, the souls don't hang around there. We know that. That's where they left their bodies behind, and their souls escaped from this life. But it's interesting. It was I hope you enjoyed that story, and the videos, the photographs are attached with this link. Thank you.